Well, hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Joanne. I am a learner lawyer. I am trying to learn. I am learning. Hope you are well. My voice is a little bit croaky. I've still been testing negative, but that virus has entered my family. I've been sort of laying low, been out in outdoor places, but I'm doing all right. I hope you're doing well. And I want to also look at this thing about Barillaro going to New York City. Yes. People in the US, the bruz man is coming. We want to look at that because there is a lot of backlash regarding that. Also, we need to look at the Katie Joy thing as well because there's been some interesting developments in that. So, the other thing that happened today was it was announced that there was a flagpole that was going to be erected on top of Sydney Harbour Bridge, which I'm okay with. But what I'm not okay with is the fact that it's costing $20 million. And so there's been all sorts of jokes about that, including this one, which I did like. Hello, the Fox, which I have to say had me laughing quite a bit. So let me just share my screen. Let me just share my screen because this is classic, and I have to say I did laugh quite a bit at this. I was a bit naughty. All right, so let's have a look. So this is a tweet. Is Barillaro installing the flagpole? I asked because he said him and the brothers can do it. $2,000 cash, no questions. He said there's a flagpole outside the town hall. No one seems to be using. Is he the flagpole? No, but if a lot of his mates would like him in it. Nope, it's only costing $25 million. Oh, I'm sorry, I was wrong. I was off by $5 million. Probably then he will take it for slander. And the shovel, which is a satire paper, has done. Perrottet confirms $25 million flag contract awarded to John Barillaro. And there's Perrottet as the Australian flag and Barillaro as the original flag. According to Barillaro, he's headed for New York for a $600,000 per annum job, according to Perrottet. No, he's just keeping the $24 million consultancy fee. Very good. First tweet to think of the connection. So everybody, and then someone says, well, isn't that a bit tad cheap for bruz? So anyway, that is that's the big joke at the moment. I know, don't the states have enough issues then? Well, hey, I actually had a thought, and this was the thought that I had, which is really quite scary when I have thoughts. I was wondering whether he wanted to go to New York City because remember how I said that Google may be able to hide under the US Constitution and not pay the fee. I'm wondering whether he thinks if he goes to the US, he can make Google pay him. But he may actually have to start the case again, and I'm sure he'll get laughed right out of the courthouse. But I did have that thought whether that was the reason, because there's something a little bit smelly about it all, in my opinion, and I just just don't know what it is. I wish I knew. I don't know. Yeah, that was a really good post though. So what do you think about that theory, the Fox? It's been nagging at me ever since the appointment was made. There's more to it. I'm thinking there has to be something. There has to be more to it. I mean, I know that if they get him out the country, he can't be any more trouble. I also know that too, but there are other ways to do that as well. So, yeah, it was just a little thought that I had about it all. So, Xenophon Davies, have this was their reaction to the news. Can we get bruz to visit schools around the states? I don't know. Xenophon Davis, who is the lawyer, who was the lawyer for both Shanks and yes, what it is to sing the fox. I just got it too. Was the lawyer for Shanks and Christo. He says, no comment, or should we say we are speechless. Barilaro's US job at a centre of parliamentary inquiry. And that is what's happening. There is a parliamentary inquiry. New South Wales politicians are up in uproar over the appointment as well. And there's going to be an inquiry into that. So that's also very, very interesting as well. I don't know what's going to happen, but, you know, it's just very suspicious that I think Chris Minns actually said it really well. Where is it? There's a video here of Chris Minns. Where is he? I just watched it before. Where was it? I watched it like a little while ago, and I thought, oh, this is a really good video. Your thoughts are not as evil as mine. Well, I don't know. I know Bo commented. And said that no, they didn't want him. They obviously didn't want. They didn't ask the people in the US whether they wanted him. Where are we? Here we go. This is it. So this was Chris Minns' response to this. First of all, he says, I love Twitter. Chris Minns says, Dominic Perrottet has given John Barilaro a taxpayer-funded job in New York City. It's wrong. So this is him on his Twitter.
G'day, Chris Minns here. I am in downtown Cogra, and there's a big issue that has just been announced by the New South Wales government. They've appointed John Barilaro as the trade envoy for New York City. Apparently,
what I can't get over is the fact he's trying to not laugh. Well, maybe he is the fox. Let's watch that again, because the guy's trying not to laugh. I mean, it shows you how much of a joke he thinks it is.
G'day, Chris Minns here. I am in downtown Cogra, and there's a big issue that has just been announced by the New South Wales government. They've appointed John Barilaro as the trade envoy for New York City. Apparently, they conducted a global search for the best person to represent the interests of this state. And who knew? He was here all along. John Barilaro got the job. I mean, seriously, the government's spending $55 million on these 6 foreign trade posts around the world. One of them's in New York City. You'd have to say, with teachers and nurses and police officers under so much stress and so much strain, with the cost of living exploding and with net debt in New South Wales approaching $170 billion, surely we can do better than jobs for the boys, jobs for the mates. We have to put the public interest first and the interest of the libs, and that's a distant second.
Actually, I'd say last, but anyway. So he says, job for the boys. These positions cost us $55 million a year. Labor leader Chris Minns has announced inquiry through the New South Wales Senate into the appointment of former New South Wales Deputy Premier John Barilaro as Senior Trade and Investment Minister. Remember how during the defamation hearing he said he just wanted to live a normal, quiet life? Then we've got Chris Minns. We will conduct an inquiry through the... we will conduct inquiry. And then someone says, are we expected to believe that of 8 million people in New South Wales, Mr. Barilaro is the best person to represent us? So $400K a year. So there's that one. But we've got to go to Friendly Geordies here. So there's 2 issues. He did a video on Avi Yemeni and Take the bet, Avi. So it appears that one of John Barilaro's last ministerial acts was to create the role of 6 trade commissioners. And guess where John just landed a job a week or 2 after his court case concluded? It's Barilaro, so you don't have to guess. Insane. I wonder how long he's known that he got the job. Here's the paper that announced positions just a few days before he resigned. So he created all these jobs before he resigned from Parliament because, public life was too stressful for him. And then he's walked into one of the jobs he's created. So one of Barilaro's last actions as Deputy Premier was to announce the establishment of 6 trade commissioner positions, one of which he has just been appointed to. Was this the price of his resignation? PR guy, the secret guy. This is the person that everyone's going to find out the identity. The New South Wales government has raised eyebrows with a media release Friday evening revealing the appointment of former Deputy Premier John Barilaro as Trade and Investment Commissioner, one of the 6 new roles announced by Barilaro before he left office. That's his resignation there. So 3 of 6 trade commissioners announced. Why not the others? Why the delay in the final appointments? Unsettled legal business for one of the appointees. When was Barilaro offered this position? Was it part of an agreement reached when he resigned? Is it right that the person who created the position be given it? This is a cracker. The appointment are the last of 6 following a highly and competitive and rigorous global talent search. What's the chances? A global talent search and we found our man just hanging out in Double Bay. So good. So it was announced that there's going to be an inquiry. And then Friendly Geordies goes, hey, how about some credit? Because I said it first. The new Friendly Geordies video. Jordan Shanks has exposed the media's war on free speech, run in unison with the far right and delivered an exonerating rebuke of the hypocrisy behind shutting down voices we disagree with. Watch till the end. Must see. Take the bet, Avi. It promised to be the scandal of the year. This is PR guy. Avi Yemeni convinced fans Dan Andrews' office was secretly behind a Twitter revolution against partisan media. But recently, Yemeni may have gotten cold feet on the claim, resisting calls to back it in a bet. Earlier in the year, Yemeni appeared convinced, even asking passers-by if they'd call him a hero for exposing Dan Andrews' secret operation. But observers have been left scratching their head as to why Yemeni won't back it up, even after receiving account details from Twitter. Yemeni even floated the theory on Sky News, and it was running the media coverage of the story. Media heavyweight Neil Mitchell even ran it. Now, as crunch time approaches, will Avi be the one to sensationally debunk his own scandalous conspiracy claims? In my opinion, PR guy's just an average Joe. Hey, PR guy could be me. I could be PR guy. You just don't know. So, 7 billion people in bruz. Well, that's right. So let's look at this. Let's look at this first of all, this first one. So New South Wales Dominic Perrottet defends John Barilaro's appointment. So the government says recruitment firm NGS Global conducted the selection process. Premier Dominic Perrottet said Mr. Barilaro's setting up Global New South Wales made him an ideal candidate. And the opposition leader questioned its funding's priorities, considering, aren't the teachers striking in New South Wales at the moment? You've got teachers striking, you've got, everyone's, yeah. So it's come amid criticism of another job for mates. So, yes, so there was a rigorous global talent search. His posting is among 6 around the world. tasked with spruiking the state's investment opportunities and local businesses. Chris Minns, Labor leader, was quick to criticise the decision, branding it $400K a year job for a friend. Abby doesn't have the guts to put the money where his mouth is. No, I don't think he does, actually. I really don't think he does. I'm a bit... for somebody that's got allegedly got a big mouth, he's not prepared to back it up. There's somebody else that likes to speak bigger than themselves too, and they never back it up. Just saying. So... earlier on Saturday, Dominic Perrottet said the former Nationals leader was the best person for the job. Right. It doesn't come as any surprise to me that the independent process that occurred, that he was by far the most outstanding candidate. Well, he created the job and recommended by that panel to the government, and I'm sure he will do a brilliant job. Mr. Barilaro, who resigned late last year, just days after former Premier Gladys Berejiklian, played a role in setting up International Trade Initiative Global New South Wales. It was this experience and his skill set that Mr. Perrottet said would make him a strong advocate for the state at the time when it needed to be more aggressive. When I went to London in my former role as treasurer, we went at the back of the room. We weren't even in the room when it came to driving investment into our state. The Deputy Premier in his former role was instrumental in setting that up and our direction going forward. Mr. Minns found the announcement perplexing from a government that committed to change and claiming it was not stale after it was not stale after 11 years in Parliament. The same old Liberal Party and National Party jobs for the boys, jobs there for their mates, looking after their own. We're generally expected to believe that a global search took place, effectively bringing in people all over the world to determine who's the best to represent the interests of the state, and the answer all along was John Barilaro. He said the government seeking another term in office needed to do better, given the current climate of inflation, staff shortages and concerns. Teachers and nurses are leaving the profession in droves because they've been told repeatedly by the Premier of New South Wales that there isn't enough money to make life a little easier on the front line of our public service, unless your name's, of course, Barilaro. In accepting his appointment, Mr. Barilaro, who recently settled his defamation case, said he would continue to build on what has already been achieved. I'm looking forward to supporting New South Wales company to explore and expand to the United States, including many fintech, cybersecurity, space, health, and food and beverage companies. We are already helping to succeed in the US through the Going Global Export Program. The former National Chief Executive of the Australian-China Business Council, Helen Shorsick, was also appointed to the role of Senior Trade and Investment Commissioner to Greater China. It expected that Mr. Barilaro and Ms. Shorsick will relocate to commence their new roles in the coming months. So that is that one. So then we get to this one, where we are now going to have an inquiry. The New South Wales Upper House, their Senate, wants to investigate it. Now, what's really interesting is that many of the people in the government, both under Barilaro and under Perrottet, have said that they knew nothing about it. So Bruz is saying that his reference to Boris isn't, no, well, that's all right. So let's have a look. So it's going to be investigated by a parliamentary inquiry. I mean, I think this is hilarious. That was a result of a rigorous talent search. Penny Sharp, Labor's leader in the Upper House, said the inquiry would leave no stone unturned. This stinks to high heaven, Ms. Sharp said. It doesn't make any sense that the Premier would decide that John Barilaro is the best person in the whole of New South Wales to go to New York and represent us on our behalf. Treasurer Matt Keane today defended the decision-making process regarding the appointment. John Barilaro was a trade minister and he appears qualified to be a trade commissioner. I've been informed that this has gone through the proper process and that's how decisions should be taken. And that's a repeat of it. See, it says here, Mr. Barilaro, a former Monaro MP, resigned last year saying public life had taken a toll. It's only the beginning. It's only the beginning. He's now going to be put under even more scrutiny. I'll take a job for boys because, yeah, so they've got $25 million to hang a flag on a bridge, $58 million or $400,000 a year to give Bruz a job, but no more money for teachers or nurses or doctors or anyone in the public service on the front line. I know it's a parliamentary inquiry, it's not ICAC. I do realise that, but look, if they can get questions, if they can, if they can find out that there's some questions to be answered, then I think it will be a good thing. So I know it's not ICAC, but hey, that might go into the ICAC list. But I want to know whether Bruz appointed the recruitment firm, because to me that would be a conflict of interest. If all of that was set into process before he left office, surely there is a standard rule that if you leave a job, you can't get a job in that area or in that firm or in that, some even ban you from industry for a year. There's a time that you're not allowed to have anything to do with it. And it's funny that it's been 6 months, and then suddenly he walks into a job. There's something smells. But look, on the bright side, he's leaving Australia. We can close the borders after he left and make sure that he doesn't come back. Roll up the carpet behind him. Don't come back. That's what we can do. You can tell him to nick off. So that would be good. So, yeah, what's everyone's thought about it? I know, as I said, I know Bo was quite vocal on my on my community post and said, no, we don't want him. We don't want him. So 18 months for that. Well, see, I would have thought there would be, for me, it's a conflict of interest. Or do we go down there and say pork barreling? Someone's just tweeted, could PR guy be a woman? I just said it was me. Oh, I wish. But no, I'm not. Pine got a similar deal. I mean, look, a lot of the politicians have walked into jobs, which I don't think is right. But I just have huge issues with that. But I think this one, this appointment, I think stinks even more. Now it's really interesting because yeah, I don't know what I was going to say. I just lost my train of thought. That's happening to me as I'm getting older. Just remove. Yeah, as I say, let's just let's just leave him over there. And don't forget, I mean, as I said before, I'm wondering whether he thinks by going to the US he'll be able to get his money from Google. But their defamation laws are a lot different to ours, and they would be more than likely to turn around and tell him to get thicker skin, to be honest with you. I don't think that he's going to have any success over there, but, to get his money. But that was a thought. I did actually have that thought. I did wonder if at one point he wasn't trying to, if he wasn't trying to get his, if he's not going to try and get his money. But that's just my little, mind going. There's no evidence to that, of course. But, just my speculation. Just my speculation. Looks like the cat's got everyone else's tongue. There's like people watching, people here, but they're not saying hello. Hello to everybody that's watching. I don't bite. I've just had my dinner or my evening meal. I've eaten. I don't bite. Come and say hello. And I know probably people are waiting for me to get onto the other topic, which is the spiraling. And that doesn't give me any pleasure to talk about Katie Joy spiraling, but it's just bizarre. I've been trying to find some legislation on cyberbullying in the US, and it's really interesting that that's not really an issue that has been tackled nationally. Well, look at who was the one that was responsible for the sale of the Port of Darwin. He walked into a job for the Chinese, with the Chinese people that bought the Port of Darwin. Wasn't he trade minister at the time? It's all very suspicious how they all get in all these, pushy jobs. The worst part is that he'll be getting more money than what he did as opposition leader. Although he's got to remember that he's going to have to pay more in child support. The more you earn, and I hope his ex-wife goes for child support. Oh dear. Yeah, they're being very quiet. Well, maybe they're all maybe it is Barilaro's people. But anyway, I don't know. As I said, content may offend because I'm talking about Katie Joy soon, and that is probably going to offend people. I just went, we'll just keep it up. But technically, I did start a little bit earlier. I did change the day. I did change the time because I was just sitting here bored. Just because I've put myself in self-isolation because, as I said, I keep having negative tests, but I've got a bit of a runny nose and there's COVID in the house. So I've put myself in self-isolation to many extents. Can we set up dinner for Katie Joy? Oh, yes! Katie Joy and Bruz for dinner. Yes. Oh, they could actually talk about who's had the worst, who's been the hardest done by. Who's had it worse? They could. They could talk about who's worse off. That would be very interesting, actually. It's a shame Shanks doesn't sell the Bruz t-shirts anymore. I know that was part of the settlement, because could you imagine him arriving into New York? Imagine him going to New York and everyone's walking around in Bruz shirts. That would just be hilarious, to be honest with you. That would just be hilarious. It would be cruel, but it'd be hilarious. It would really be cruel, but funny. Cruel, but funny. What do you reckon? And who do you reckon would win that debate? Of who's the worst hard done by? Who's the worst? Who's been hard done by the most? Oh dear. So we need, oh yes, we would need cameras. We would need cameras, definitely. Need to have cameras for that. We would. As I said, it would be hilarious to see that. So it would be funny. All right. Oh, we've lost a few people. All right. So I mean, I'd be interested to see what the parliamentary can the parliamentary inquiry make recommendations to ICAC, because that's what Jordan can't, but nothing. Well, that's right. Bo could sell them in the US. That's right. She just needs. Oh, I'm sure he'd still have stock somewhere, so he would just need to send the stock to her, and I'm sure she could organize it. But that's the funny thing, is that I know, not to quote, people will find out for themselves what he's like. It's got nothing to do with those videos. I mean, it's to do with the fact that he got a plum job at the moment. That's what everyone's talking about, the cushy job. So, yeah. So, so here's another question for you. So ahead of a press conference with Greens leader Adam Bandt, a Green staffer moved the Australian flag out of the TV camera shot. What do you think? So he only had the Aboriginal and the Torres Strait Islander flag behind him, not the Australian flag. So what do you think of that? I think you need to have the national flag there, whether or not. We're going to go fund set Bo to sell. Hi, Joe, you're not sounding good. I'm a bit under the weather. I keep testing negative. I think I've just got a cold, but my daughter's had the bug, so has had the Rona. So I've been hiding out in my room the last few days, but I'm more okay. I mean, I've been out and about. Like, I go outside to outdoor places. I just don't tend to go to indoor places, just because, I don't. The risk is greater indoors than outdoors. So where there's lots of people indoors, I stay away. If there's lots of outside, so I went for a walk yesterday. Got cold, and yeah. So just a bad cold, I think. I mean, I'm getting my flu vaccine tomorrow, so hopefully, I tell you what helps me, and I'll have to go get some antihistamines. I actually find that antihistamines actually help, because my eyes are all puffy and stuff. So, and I find that when the weather goes from being warm in the daytime to cold at night, this is the result. So, yeah, right. So let's get on to. So we've spoken about the investigation that's looking into Barilaro. Let's get on to our topic 2. Well, first of all, what is cyberbullying? And I've tried to find a US definition of this, and it's been really hard to find a US definition of this, because Australia actually has very tight cyberbullying legislation and rules, and we have the E-Commissioner that regulates cyberbullying. So if somebody does certain things in Australia, it's very easy to take action, because we actually have laws. But it looks like it's individual state from what I can find. But this is what I want to talk about. Lindsay Chrisley. Yeah, well, that's true too, the Fox. Katie Joy from will be addressed on Coffee Convo's podcast this coming week with my attorney, as I will continue to take the high road. There was more to that. But Lindsay Chrisley essentially stated that she would be talking, that she would be doing on the podcast that she does, she'll be sitting down with her lawyer and addressing some of the points that have been made against her by Katie Joy. To that response, she says, "No one is bullying the family nor harassing you. I am reporting on your family's criminal case and conviction. Your father was convicted. You changed the story on the stand. That is reporting the facts. Lindsay Chrisley is making me the bad guy for reporting on her father's criminal case." Yeah, that's what I do. Cough early in the morning. Hey, Bo. Hey, we were just talking about you, Bo. We decided that we're gonna ask Friendly Geordies to send you the Bruz shirts for the Bruz welcoming committee when he arrives in the US. So no one is bullying the Chrisleys or harassing them. Todd was convicted. My reporting stands. I'm not the bad guy. I was swatted, harassed, and defamed by her father for years, covering the case. Now I'm the bad guy. Nope. How is reporting true facts harassment? I don't know. Well, here's the thing. So you can see that I've got all these tabs up here. I have been searching and searching and searching. So this is criminal defense lawyers. So this is a US law firm that talks about it. And they've actually put here cyberbullying. So using technology or the internet to bully, harass, or stalk someone may be referred to as cyberbullying, cyberstalking, or online harassment. Cyberbullying tends to fall into a grey area that's harmful but not yet criminal. This is in the US. In Australia, it's criminal. However, it often doesn't take much to cross the line into a criminal act when the behaviour makes the targeted victim fear for their safety or suffer emotional distress. Cyberstalking or online harassment involves a range of conducts, including sending threats, obscene images, or unwanted communications, or repeated unwanted communications via text messaging, computer, email, posting harmful or false information on social media sites, impersonating somebody on their social media account, encourage others to post private, personal, false, or offensive information about another. Stalking, harassment that involves monitoring or following a victim is known as stalking. A person might do these things like follow someone at home or electronically GPS tracking. Sometimes states define stalking as communicating threats of physical harm or extortion or damage to the property against the victim or their family. Now, I would also say digging up people's history is also stalking. So criminal harassment requires the defendant's conduct to be directed at a specific person, serve no legitimate purpose, and be something that would cause a reasonable person to suffer substantial distress or fear for their safety. So penalties for it could be jail time, no conduct order, restraining order. And so then I've got this. This was so this is from the American Bar Association. And again, it's really not. It's still a new concept in the US. So practitioners in civil, criminal courts, or family and juvenile courts regularly confront instances of cyber abuse, whether constituting harassment, intimidation, stalking, or threats. First Amendment protections are not absolute, although often claimed as a defence in many of these cases. Sexting, revenge, and defamation are subjects of litigation across the country. Wrongful death lawsuits, bullycide, have been filed against youthful bullies and their parents. Employment law also sees its share of cyberbullying involving employees and management. So the schools, where it's been really strong, is in the schools. So I found lots of information about cyberbullying, and cyberbullying, as far as states are concerned, has a lot to do with the school system. So this is the school student bullying process. And so down here, cyberbullying means bullying using technology or other electronic communication, including but not limited to a transfer of a sign, signal, writing, image, sound, or data, including a post on a social network, internet website, or forum transmitted through a computer, cell phone, or other electronic device. You did notice that I clicked on the Minnesota rules, didn't you? Intimidating, threatening, abusive, or harming conduct may involve, but not limited to, conduct that causes physical harm to a student or student's property or causes a student to be reasonable fear of harm the person under Minnesota common law. So as I said, this is based on school. Prohibited means bullying or cyberbullying as defined under this subdivision. And then, so as I said, cyberbullying in a lot of states essentially have to deal with schools. And that's a lot of that here. So I was looking at this. So there are some session laws in Minnesota. So if we go down here, it's going to highlight it for us. These have been passed but not enacted yet, is my understanding of these laws. Can you read fast? Oops. It should highlight it for me. Oops, I thought it did. Oops. Oops, I don't think it has. Where is it? Oh, this is embarrassing, isn't it? So again, but it's all to do with children. It's not got to do with anything to do with adults. So that's I'm finding to be most frustrating for me is that I'm just going to find it now. It's here. Do you think, I don't know where he's going to stop. Oh, here we go. Yeah, cyberbullying. So the definition of cyberbullying. So, which is the same. So that's where that's all come from. So then I decided, I've just been looking. So I haven't really gone, I don't really know what the full law says about it, but I would say that some of the stuff that has been posted. Now, one state I saw stated that it was harassment was posting 2 or more continuous posts about a said person. That was in Michigan, and it was 6 months. There was a imprisonment. Can you see? Could you see what harassment is? For her, she's saying about physical harassment, but she's not talking. What she's doing is cyber harassment. This woman is a Duggar friend. My sources say. Apparently, she's Satan's mouthpiece, apparently. I am no longer Katie Joy. My official name is Satan's mouthpiece. Call me Satan for short. And then someone says, where do I buy the Minion t-shirt? Will she get upset if everyone starts calling her Satan? Because she did actually ask people just to... and again, she's back onto the essay. So all of this stuff on the Duggars, it could be deemed harassment. So let's go to Twitter now, because Twitter's always fun. What I love about Twitter is so this is her. This was the. Is that it says it's age restricted content. Look at it all. So this is her response on Lindsay Chrisley will be addressed. So yeah, so Lindsay Chrisley is sitting down with her lawyer and talking about the bullying and the harassment and the effects of what has happened, what Katie Joy has caused. And so she's saying, no, I haven't done it. And then she says, your father is facing a lawsuit for harassment against me. Nice try. No, Katie Joy, you filed a counterclaim. You haven't filed a harassment lawsuit. I've seen it. Now, if you remember that she said that Todd Chrisley wanted to settle with her, the story's changed. During Todd Chrisley's criminal trial, I rejected a global settlement agreement against the entire Chrisley family. The next day, Todd, Podcast One, and Seven Seas Productions were served with a lawsuit for defamation, emotional stress, and harassment for the years-long campaign against me. I thought it was a counterclaim. And yeah, so it's just all age restricted. I'm sorry, we're not old enough to view it. We're being protected. It's pretty bad when Twitter actually has to protect your tweets. So anyway, she's got 10,000 people on Twitter now. So she is that how many you need to monetize on Twitter? 10,000. What she got? She's got 87,000 on Instagram. So what's everybody's thoughts about this? Oh, let me have a look. Although it's only just turning Monday morning now, isn't it? Like there was nothing filed over the weekend, was there? Because I haven't checked. So, yeah. I'm not having a long stream because, as you can hear, I'm a bit under the weather. Cool up. But, yeah. I reckon. Hi. Hopefully the Bruz man will be in trouble. Yes, I think so. Plan to create. I hope so. Bo's going to grab all of Shanks's Bruz t-shirts and organize a welcoming party for him in the US with Bruz shirts. It just makes it laughable if you remember that he cried in the stand and talked about how he wanted a simple, normal life again, and this has just messed him up. And then he gets announced about this plum job. We were just talking about cyber harassment and whether if multiple videos on one person would count as cyber harassment. In Australia, it's very clear what cyberbullying is. But in the US, there is in the US, it's a bit harder because I don't think that it is not. It's a lot easier to convict in So I'll just show you what we've got here. She's in Minnesota. So I just showed you the Minnesota stuff. So it's also part of our human rights charter as well. So here is the actual. So this is from the human rights gov. So now he has. Yes. Oh no, he's getting 120,000 to relocate, plan to create. So I'm sure the two of them can use that. So, so this is through the Australian Human Rights Commission. So this is under Australian law. So cyberbullying can be someone you know. Cyberbullying can involve people sending photos and videos of you to others to try and embarrass or hurt you, spreading rumors about you via email or social network sites or text messages, people trying to stop you from communicating with others. Hey, does that sound like anyone you know? How can you be safe? And it tells you do not respond to messages when you're angry or hurt, log out. You can block, delete, report anyone. And then there's a whole pile of things that you can do here. And they also have the Australian Human Rights Commission actually has a line that you can actually help, that you can contact, and they will talk you through what the next steps are. So that's from the that's in Australia. That's right. We are going to set up a dinner with Barilaro and Katie Joy so they can talk about who is worse off. So again, this is, so as I said, there is really strict rules. So this is the e-Safety Commissioner. This is the person who oversees cyber, well, everything to do with, so here's all the stuff that they do. So again, e-Safety helps prevent and deal with cyberbullying and its impacts. So, and again, 44% of young people report having a negative online experience. And again, what you can do. But again, it's still very much to do with children, because most often it is children, but, you know, it is yeah, look, we're sort of, I mean, our defamation laws are not great. But as far as our e-Safe, this is what I'm saying. And this is why with the whole NAT issue, this is why I've had issues with the whole NAT thing, because the UK's laws are very similar to Australia's laws. UK's laws are actually stronger than Australia. And so that's why I'm saying that if it was as bad as what everybody had said, they would have got it long ago. Because, so this is really interesting, but it says harassing, for example, when someone keeps sending messages to you or keeps sharing posts or comments about you, even though you don't want them to. That is harassment. So how to report it? Am I cyberbullying others for family and friends? So you can actually, and you can actually also report it. So in Australia, you can report cyberbullying. If the cyberbullying is very serious and the service or platform does not help you within 48 hours, you can report it to e-Safety. And then they've got counsellors that you can go see, adult cyber abuse. So let's have a look at this one. So we call it cyber abuse. So again, the e-Safety guide. And again, how you can do it, how to get police and legal to help. And again, report now. Image-based abuse is sharing or threatening to share an intimate image or video of persons without their consent. Cyberbullying is where someone uses the internet to be mean to a child or young person. So yes, cyber abuse. See, I didn't realize. So these are the. So then they've given you a whole pile of apps here, and then they tell you how to be safe on them. On them, you know. So yeah. So that is the e-Safety Commissioner. So as I said, Australia's got very strict cyber rules. So if a certain creator wanted to come after me, I would have no problem reporting it online. Let me try cyber abuse. No, it still doesn't have anything. But yeah, cyber abuse. We're going to see a lot more of it, I think. So this is, I'm just trying to find. So in June 2021, new laws were in force. So I just want to show you this. So for example, in Australia, and this, as I said, this is why, because only the UK have stronger laws. People subjected to vile online abuse and harassment will have greater protections from trolls. So people accused of posting, sharing, and the threatening material will face fines of up to $111,000 if they refuse to remove the content, and $500,000 for companies like Facebook or Twitter which fail to comply with takedown notices. So then it would also reduce the time to comply with takedown notices from 48 to 24 hours. It's taken 6 years to develop. The investigators would assess complaints as they came in. The legislation has the support of prominent safety advocates, including Sonia Ryan and the broadcaster Erin Milan. Miss Ryan's daughter Carly was murdered in 2007 by a man who groomed her using a fake online identity. Legislation to protect children from online predators is known as Carly's Law. So the office of the e-safety commissioner existed. Who knows? Maybe she may still be alive. So there are new powers. So the laws will be wheeled first, and noted the e-safety commissioner would be given extra powers to block websites and apps during a crisis event. So there are laws in place. So it's, there are huge fines. So could you imagine if a certain creator, for example, or if Instagram, for example, had to take down somebody's posts? So it's the Online Safety Act. So let's go have a look at. So we actually have an Online Safety Act. We have an Act of Parliament. So let's have a look at that. Right, here we go. So this is, as I said, this is the Online Safety Act. This is the Act. This is an Act of Parliament. So let's go to Section 7. So for the purposes of this Act, so this is if material satisfies the following conditions. If it's posted on a social media service, a relevant electronic service, an internet service, that an ordinary reasonable person would conclude that it is likely that the material was intended to have an effect of causing serious harm to a particular Australian adult. An ordinary reasonable person in position of the Australian adult would regard the material as being, in all circumstances, menacing, harassing, and offensive. So this is defining what cyberbullying is. Such conditions, if any, that are set out in legislative rules, then the material is cyber abuse material targeted at the Australian adult, and the Australian adult is the target of material. So in this Act, it sets out what has to be met before you get to the fact about cyber abuse. So this is how to determine whether the material is offensive. The matters to be taken into account. It's good I've learned how to read acts. When you do criminal law, when you're doing criminal law or even the law of torts, when you've got to go through the act and they go, if this condition's met, this condition's met, this condition's met, then it's this. So for the material to be offensive, the matters to be taken into account in deciding for the purposes of this Act whether an ordinary reasonable person in the position of a particular Australian adult would regard particular material as being in all circumstances offensive include the standards of morality, decency, and propriety generally accepted by reasonable adults, and the literary, artistic, or educational merit, if any, of the material, and the general character of the material, including whether it is of a legal, medical, or scientific character. So it has to have, so for it to be offensive, would a normal Australian adult with the morals, decency, and propriety, okay, that it takes into account whether it's literary, artistic, or educational, and the character of the material. So, and then if the material is provided on a social media service or relevant electronic service, a designated internet service, and the material is private sexual in nature, then in deciding for the purposes of the Act whether an ordinary person would regard this material as being in all circumstances offensive, regard must be had to whether the subject of or each of the subjects of the private sexual material gave consent to the material being provided to service. So, yeah, so then we're talking about other stuff. So then we're talking about violent conduct. So it's all in here. Let's have a look. Intimate image, internet, what the stuff about internet service provider. Look at this, enforcement. So let's have a look. Civil. So infringement notices. So this means you just got to go back to that section. So yeah, so this is what when material is so if it's for the purposes of the Act, material is provided on a social media service, relevant electronic service, or designated internet service if the material is accessible to or delivered to one or more of the end users using the service. For the purposes of the Act, material is posted on social media, so it even defines what it is. So here is a social media service. What a designated internet service includes intimate image. What is an intimate image? It breaks non-consensual image. Now, so for the purposes of the Act, if the person did not consent to the image, so that's all of that, hosting service, on-demand program, internet provider, consent. What is consent? Definition of consent. Now, consent does not include consent given by a child or consent given by an adult who is in a mental or physical condition, whether temporary or permanent, that makes the adult incapable of giving consent or substantially impairs the capacity of the adult to give consent. So the functions of the E-Safety Commissioner. So this is ours, Convention on the Rights of the Child, cyberbullying material to target the child. We looked at that one. Oh yeah, this is the takedown notice. So if the material has been provided on a social media service and the commissioner is satisfied that the material is or was cyber abuse material at a targeted and Australian adult, that the material was the subject of a complaint that was made to the provider service, and then all of it. So the thing is, at the end of the day, if not given to an end user, removal notice given to a hosting service provider, a formal warning. So essentially, you actually have to report it. Essentially, you have to report it. If it's not reported, they won't be doing anything. Disclosures, so disclosure with consent. So it's all laid out here. How you can get reviews on decisions. So that is the. This is the Online Safety Act 2021. Just so that you know. All right. So I can't keep it. Well, that's correct for the Fox. They would have to. I think they actually have to prove that you were of right mind. But yeah, essentially, well, from what I can see, you could actually state that. So essentially, just because your image is on the internet doesn't give somebody the right to share it. That's essentially what it means. So yeah. So as I said, and that's why I have issues with some of the stuff I'm hearing about the laws in the UK, because as I said, I know the laws in the UK are very similar to Australia, and that's what surprises me. And I don't want to really speak on that because that's not a topic I really want to get into, but I would, I could only assume that it hasn't met one of the criterias. But anyway, as I said, I don't know. And as I said, it has to be removed. So if KJ and Bruz went for a meal, whose head would explode first? That's an interesting question. If KJ and Bruz went for a meal, whose head would explode first? My head's going to explode thinking about that, the Fox. Oh, dear. Oh, dear. It's funny. I'm so funny sometimes. Really, I am. So, yeah, anyway. Oh, dear. Yeah, so that's about all I've got for you tonight. So I'm going to head off, I think. I'm going to have a honey and ginger tea, which I find really helps. And yeah, and by the way, they could pay me $2,000 and I'm sure I could find a big stick to be able to hang the flag on. I'm sure I could do it. I'm sure I could get the flag up on the harbour bridge for less than 25 mil myself, by the way. Just saying. Anyway, I just want to thank you all for joining me. I'll be back again soon, maybe tomorrow, maybe not. But I will do my best to be back soon. It will depend on how I feel. But anyway, make sure you hit like button, make sure you hit subscribe, and hey, if you want to send me a super like, that would be great too. All right, bye for now.